Hey everybody, this is Barefoot Sal Rodriguez of North Hollywood, California, aka Salvador, Los Angeles. I'm going to just do a few more of these action figure reviews before I unbox the rest of them and go ahead and display them and move on with my life and move on to reviewing some other things. But while we're here today, what we got is we got a classic Superstars Andy Kaufman wrestling action figure. Now, you know, in chasing down UFC figures, I actually just stumbled across the classic Superstars. I had no idea that they even existed. So I found Andy Kaufman. Now, the interesting thing is, I'm just a few people removed from Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman was managed, his comedy career and acting career was managed by George Shapiro. George Shapiro currently also manages Carl Reiner and Jerry Seinfeld, just to name a couple people. In some old classic video clips you see on YouTube, you see Andy Kaufman doing some of his wrestling hijinks, and you've got his manager, George Shapiro, running around the wrestling ring. Well, that was interesting to see. I've met the guy. He's a very nice man. So anyway, here's Andy Kaufman, wrestling figure. For those of you who don't know what he used to be up to, I believe this was maybe before Taxi or maybe around the time of Taxi. Things that he used to do, hijinks he'd get into as far as the world of wrestling. Go ahead and pause this video. Go ahead and check that out and come on back. For some of you, you may be unaware that Jakks, who was making these figures, no longer has the license for WWE figures. Now it's Mattel. So Mattel is making the Legends line now they're making. And I seriously doubt I'd be willing to put money on they're not gonna put Andy Kaufman in the upcoming Legends line along with Ultimate Warrior and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and all that. So this is a real treat. The late Andy Kaufman wrestling figure. So here's the back of it. And here's the side. And here's the other side. And this is Series 22 of Classic Superstars. I happened to find this sitting on a shelf, collecting dust. And this is definitely for the adult collector. No kid is going to care about Andy Kaufman or know who Andy Kaufman is. They probably haven't even seen the Jim Carrey movie, Man on the Moon, I'm willing to bet. So anyway, we're going to crack him open. We're going to have a look at him. And I'll be getting him up on my display shelf. So stick around. All right, so here's Andy Kaufman out of his packaging. He comes in this robe. He comes with a neck brace. Now, for those of you hardcore collectors, he doesn't have any holes in the bottom of his feet. Just like all the other classic Superstars, there's no holes to put a base display stand on, so you got to just have these guys stand up on their own, which they do fairly well, or you can try some other manner of holding them up. But here he is in his robe. The robe is a cool fabric. And underneath, he's got some wrestling attire on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off his robe, and we're going to get into the wrestling attire, get into his articulation. But again, if you're familiar with the classic Superstars line, the articulation is pretty much all the same on all of them. But we're going to get him out of his robe and see what he looks like and see what it looks like without the neck thing as well. All right, so thanks for sticking around. Hey there, here's Andy Kaufman out of his robe. He's got a little bit of chest hair. I don't know if you can see that up at his neckline. They put a little bit of chest hair on there. He moves at the waist, he moves back and forth at the hip, moves at the knee, a hinge joint at the ankle, full rotation on the shoulder, also goes up to about this level, hinge joint at the elbow, hinge joint at the hands, and then full rotation of the hand, the neck, the head turns all the way around like the Exorcist, and this is what he looks like out of his clothing. Really big hands on these figures. Really, really large hands. I don't know if you can see that. If you look at the relationship of the hand to the figure, that's pretty large. But here he is. Andy Kaufman wrestling figure. You know what you could do at this point if you were a big Taxi fan? What you could probably do is dress him up like Latka. Forget about the world of wrestling. Dress him up like Latka, and you've got a Taxi action figure for those of you who love Taxi. And then maybe you can get a Danny DeVito penguin figure and dress him up like Louis. How about that? So that's for you throwback Taxi fans. All right, so here's Andy Kaufman, wrestling action figure. Pretty sturdy, pretty nice, does stand on his own. Again, no holes in the bottom of the feet for pegs, but ready for display and ready if you got a Jerry Lawler action figure, ready to have them go head to head. All right, so the figure's great. The likeness is pretty good. Obviously, we don't know what Andy Kaufman looks like today because he's not alive. He's not with us anymore. But if you look at some of the old clips, I think the likeness is pretty good, especially the eyebrows and the hair. And yeah, actually, I would say his likeness is pretty good. I don't think his build is like this, though. He looks a little more fit and muscular here, a little more of a V-shaped body here, a little more broad-shouldered here. So I think that this is a very flattering likeness of Andy Kaufman. So, if you want also, you could probably maybe put a microphone in his hand and have him do some stand-up comedy. So there we go. Great looking display figure or play figure, probably display. No, what kid's gonna want to play with Andy Kaufman? I don't know, but here he is, WWE Classic Superstars Andy Kaufman action figure. Add him to your collection, and he's a lot of fun to have. Yeah, this is also probably one of the few stand-up comedian action figures that there is. Although this is a wrestling action figure, he was a stand-up comedian, and I'd love to start a collection of stand-up comedian action figures if they were to make them. All right, so thanks for watching the Andy Kaufman WWE action figure review by Salvador Los Angeles, aka Barefoot Sal. We'll see you out there on the road.